Well, the winter finally showed up, so
Yes.
I think you've got plenty of
And it's not me.
I'd rather it be January 9th than like November 9th with all this.
Well, yes, yeah. It's Garden
Yeah,
District.
yeah. Garden
Yep,
District.
yep.
Thank you. Yep, thanks, sir. You wanna, we need to stamp that in or acknowledge it? Everyone received that one email comment that came in?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Sorry. No, it's, no. But Rex will be.
So, good morning, folks. We're going to just wait a few more minutes due to the weather. We usually start at 8:30, but we'll give it maybe about 5 minutes, okay? Appreciate it. Thank you.
No.
I don't know if she's.
Oh. Her kids might be have a snow day.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone seemed to be delayed
Yeah.
all around us.
Yeah, yeah.
Slow going.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I was thinking, he's standing here for a while.
I thought of you this morning. I'm like, oh, I hope Kate makes it in the bus schedule.
Oh,
Although I'd have taken the car. Yeah, my son would have had to walk.
That's good for him. That's the same thing.
Oh, it's just the 80. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Whatever does for
The living,
the actual living
the scream.
area.
Okay, got it. See, the zoning is reviewed and it meets his own code related to the lot coverage locations. That is correct, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's not in the front setback.
Do you want to start with the photos? Sure. Sure. Okay. Okay.
You gotta go pinch the screen.
I think I gotta go pinch the screen. So much for.
see if I can.
We got a board of 7 people. So we have- First one, we need to actually vote. I can't vote. Yeah, sorry. I thought you said what for.
I forgot that was.
We have 4. I mean, we could skip this and do this first. But, we had, I don't know, what's this? 5 to 7, okay. Hold on a minute. So, we don't have quorum.
Oh, we do.
We do.
Oh, wait, 4.
We need 4, right. So Hillary's about 5 minutes out.
Okay.
So, I don't, if we want to flip, should we just wait? You tell me.
I think.
Can we open it up and start it?
We should get started. We have a quorum, so we should get moving. Interest of time.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's,
And the snow flying.
yes.
So- That's right, yeah, so true.
All right, good morning. Sorry for the late start. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Syracuse Landmark Preservation Board for January the 9th, 2025. Roll call.
Howard Trish.
Nicole Fragnito.
Kyle Gregory.
Jeff Romano.
Amber Dillon.
And Kate Auwetter.
And we are expecting Hillary in a few minutes. Any excused absences?
Julia Marshall, as well as Bob Searing, are absent today. Excused.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the minutes, please?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, excuse me, any modifications to the minutes? All in favor of accepting the minutes as submitted?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are adopted. The board will now conduct the public hearings on today's agenda. The applicant or the applicant's representative will be invited to describe the proposed scope of work and to present any material or documentation regarding the proposal to the board. Excuse me. Next, persons wishing to speak in favor of the proposal will be given the opportunity to address the board. Then, persons wishing to speak in opposition will be allowed to address the board. Finally, the applicant or a representative will be given the opportunity to make closing comments to the board. Following public comment, the board may vote to approve with conditions, or deny the application just heard. The board may also decide to hold its decision until the next public hearing. If the hearing is closed, no additional information will be allowed into the record except for information that the board may request. This information will be available for the public for review with board staff. Staff, may you please introduce the first application?
Good morning, and Happy New Year to everyone. So this is a C of A for the construction of a 2-story, 3-bay garage at 100 Windsor Place. It does include a 2nd-story accessory dwelling unit. It is located in the Berkeley Park Preservation District. Zoning staff has reviewed the proposal, and it meets zoning code related to lot coverage, location, size, as well as use. The board's role is to consider the impact of the proposed construction on the historic character of the property and on the surrounding district. The board may approve with conditions, or deny or hold the application open pending submission of additional information. The board, I did send around yesterday, there's a letter that received, an email that was received that I sent to all the board members yesterday in support of the project, and then there was another one that was just sent around. And at this point, I think I can hand it over to the project representative.
All right. Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm here.
introduce yourself,
My name is Frank Kuzmano from In Architects. I'm here to represent my client, Dr. Jamin Brown. So the project is located at 100 Windsor Place in the Berkeley subdivision. We were previously here in front of the board not too long ago, maybe about a few months ago, and we were approved to demolish the existing patio storage structure that was in disrepair, and that basically opens up some space in that area that you see. That's right there. That's basically south of the exterior rear terrace there. So if you go down to the pictures there, kind of get a lay of the area. So on the existing house there to the right on photo 6 there, you can see there's an existing garage that goes into the house that currently right there to photo 7 shows it very nicely. During a rainstorm, you get a lot of flooding that happens in front of that garage door. So basically, that garage is non-usable during certain times, obviously. So what the owner would like to do is, in order to store his cars, and he's got a tractor, we are proposing to do a 2.5 car garage. And since we have we are allowed to do a apartment, we basically are using that, would like to make a 2-story and use that space above to provide a 1-bedroom apartment with its own northerly entry. So as you can see in the other photos, we have some photos representing the neighbors to the south that run like pretty close to that driveway. I think it's about plus minus 8 feet to the property line in that location. And you can see a number of trees that are along that line. So the purpose of, one of the main goals was to remove that patio storage area, was to create a little more space so the owner can provide a garage that is, and move it closer to his residence, knowing that these, we don't want to disturb any of the trees down that tree line, the property, and provide a good, comfortable distance from the neighbor's property. And, we could, provide some landscaping along that, a little more landscaping along that southern edge as well to buffer some of that. So if you want to go back to the plans, we can kind of go through and show.
I'm sorry,
Go to the proposed garage plan that we had up earlier.
am I going in the right direction? I think I am.
Yep, you're going in the right
Yep,
direction.
okay. Tell me which one you
Yeah,
want
the
me to
first
stop
one there.
at.
Yep. If
The-
you want to zoom in on that one, yep.
This one?
Yep.
Okay.
Maybe one there, the site
I'm
plan.
looking for the Zoom.
Plus sign up at the top.
Oh, thank you.
Not that easy, is it?
One day we'll get this straight. Okay.
So as you can see there, we have the proposed garage laid out there to the south of that new, the terrace area. So what we're doing, so when we remove that that patio storage area, we're creating a new retaining wall to with the similar elements of the existing house with brick, and that's all being tied into the proposed site work that's happening, where it's going to tie into that existing wall there that you see in return to be brick with a railing on top and stuff. And what we're doing is creating kind of that same little, so where that patio storage area was, kind of creating that same little nook to be a connection point from the house, the existing house, to the garage, where you have that separate entry going up to the ADU apartment, and then an entry going into the garage itself. So the concept is to, obviously, like I said, to get this garage as close to the house as possible, but creating a nice little breezeway to the existing house, that nice connection, and exemplifying that new wall that's going to be there, that's going in place where that was. And what this does, it actually opens up the opportunity to fix the drainage issue with the driveway. As you can see there, so just to go back, where we're taking out the existing garage door, we're including 3 new windows, and building up a wall and putting some landscape in front of there, to basically, so we can bring the drainage off of the house and down, possibly going west off the property, as we can run it to kind of daylight. So that creates that opportunity there, and as you can see, we provided an entry. So if you want to go to the plans itself, the next page, I can explain more of the plans. So we created a new entry there at the existing, where have existing basement there. There's a new door that goes into that space that ties everything in there. So you have a 2.5 bay garage, and then so that there's enough for 2 garages or 2 cars, and then he has a tractor that he'd like to store in the garage, where you can see in the photos. I'm not if you noticed the tractor that was there. That will now be stored in this space. And then, so that the separate entry there to the ADU will go up the stairs, and then you have a kitchen, living, bath, and a bedroom. And this meets the, it's below the 800 square foot threshold. It's at 797 square feet currently. We created, I pushed back that area above to kind of create this element of the roof that would kind of mimic what is going on at the existing house, with the lower portion, with that nice alignment. Some of the features in the existing house are blended into this garage. It's more of a simplified version of what's happening with the house. I didn't want to go too far into detail. And it'd be kind of overbearing to the existing house to be for this little structure. So I brought some of the brackets that are on the proposed garage, mimic kind of the detail of the dentils on that same profile, but they become brackets instead of the dentils. So if you want to just scroll through maybe the renderings and stuff, we can kind of look at, and the elevations. So we would kind of match almost close enough to the same brick that we would have on the existing house. The windows would match. You'd have a 6/6 with the double hungs. Like I said, would match the existing house with the precast sills, the precast water table that mimics all the way around. That was on the patio storage area, which when I was here a few months ago, we kind of felt that was needed on that new proposed wall that was that retaining wall. Yes, that wall there. So that water table kind of extends over and creates that line. Shutters would match. And like you can see other features on there. We have some molding that runs around underneath the soffits that would match, some of the stuff on the existing structure as well. And just to break up the elements a little bit, I added some siding, kind of just to break up the brick a little bit on that little portion that sticks out underneath the roof area there. So if you want to scroll down a little bit more, I think we have just the materials. So there you can see on the left, that is what the existing roof currently is. So we'd be matching that. The owner had previously just done that not too long ago. So we would be matching that same spec that we would have there. The brick, we felt that the Bellcross 730 was pretty close to what was there. Obviously, that could be looked at a little bit further and kind of feel what the right brick colors would be to match that. And the siding and trim is there. It'd be a low maintenance LP Smart side, which is like a low maintenance wood, pre-painted, do white, kind of matching other elements on the house. Windows and shutters, looking at the Marvin Ultimate Double Hung, the G2, which, is your historic window. They would match, profiles. Again, 6/6 grid. Shutters would match. Those are typical 2-panel. Stone water tables, a precast. Then you have overhead door, looking at the Clopay, possibly just steel. And then the doors would be a Marvin Ultimate In-Swing to kind of match the windows and the grids and be a 1 panel on the bottom. And I think that's pretty much it. And then you can go through the renderings there. We have a few renderings showing what this kind of looks like. And we're gonna provide some minimal light just underneath the soffits, kind of just to light the. He wanted to. He was looking at doing uplighting on, like, in front there of the garage doors. You'll see a kind of like a night shot. It might be too much. We want, to be more of a warmer light, not so bright, but that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Board, any questions you have to, any clarifications on what was presented?
Why no window on the south side?
Just to feel more, privacy-wise, it's just better to not to provide anyone. There's really no necessary reason to have it on that side. Plus, there's wall there for the bedroom. So that, it could be added, but it's not necessary.
Any other clarifications from the board?
Also, too, if there was trees in that area, the trees would be covering most of that,
Southern light is nice and maybe breaking up a solid brick wall. I understand about privacy, but maybe the look of it would be nice.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how much southern light that will get as well, right, because of the adjacent neighbor and the tree line, too, so.
Is there an equivalent material to the siding on the existing house? I've only seen masonry. I'm just curious. Is there also siding on the existing house, or is it primarily just masonry?
It's primarily just brick.
So this is just to try and break up the massing?
Exactly. Yep. And also so there, as you can see, if you're looking at the front elevation there's the 2 larger overhead doors. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to bring out that form as, looking as a separate garage rather than that smaller garage door for the tractor or whatever other equipment he's got kind of just is its own element. So I wanted to break that up that way.
Any other questions? Nope, go ahead.
Main house has the original windows?
Yes. Yes, currently it does, yes.
And I can tell also, are you modifying the existing short roof over the current garage? It looks like it's extending beyond compared to what I'm seeing in the
So
photograph.
on the right side extends already. So on the left side where we're taking out that patio garage area, this was in the previous application.
Okay.
We are extending that roof to kind of match the overhang on the other side to,
Okay,
yep.
that's what I thought.
Thanks for the question.
All right. For those wishing to speak in favor, please come forward to the microphone. And may I have your name and address for the record, please?
Live at the bottom of the hill. This is at the top. This is a magnificent property on over an acre of land. Every house up and down Windsor, Berkeley, with a few exceptions, are magnificent. I used to volunteer to go trick-or-treating with my kids just so I could ring doorbells like this. I'm fairly impressed with the investment these owners are willing to make. This is not inconsequential. I think they've done a fabulous job of choosing good materials, modern where appropriate. And hats off to them. I fully support this. I'm pleased that they're eliminating the existing garage, not just adding 2 more bays. This is not going to become a parking sea or whatever. I would agree. I would love to see some windows on the south, just to break up the brick mass, because even, the house to the south is magnificent and looks here. It's nice to have that dialogue back and forth. But I would wholeheartedly support this. I also like the fact there's an accessory dwelling unit. It's nice to have a little bit of granularity in a neighborhood that seems to be a little bit too oversized for most modern families. So again, I think that's a nice feature and, better than certainly a 2-car garage with a kind of shallow roof. It's more in scale. So I hope you find these comments in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of the project? Okay. Anyone here wishing to speak against the project? Please step to the podium and introduce yourself, please.
My name is Susan Swanson. I reside at 303 Berkeley, the property that is adjacent to this proposed project. I can feel which way the cold wind is blowing, but I hope you'll keep an open mind and listen to another perspective on this project. This is our second historic neighborhood. I worked on the committee to actually achieve a designation for our historic district in Atlanta, Georgia, Inman Park. The proposed plan is beautiful. Everyone in the room would agree. And it would be lovely on Woodchuck Hill Road or maybe in Manlius, but totally inappropriate for our landmark preservation district. Although we're saddened to oppose our neighbors, my husband and I do oppose this project as it is now proposed from 2 perspectives. The first objection is based on the landmark preservation designation of Berkeley Park. 100 Windsor has been described as the jewel of Berkeley Park. It's visible as you approach Berkeley Drive and is situated on the highest part of the drumlin. It is easily seen from many locations. It is a classic example of a colonial revival mansion with beautiful symmetry and the remains of a classic formal landscape, which I believe is important to the character of the neighborhood. Although the address of this structure is 100 Windsor Place, this is the back or the carriage entrance to this home. The architecture reflects that the front facade of the house and the formal landscape actually face Berkeley Drive. Therefore, the proposed two-story structure would front the grand boulevard of Berkeley Drive, the central passageway through the neighborhood. The proposed ADU is not consistent with the character of Berkeley Park. My former neighborhood in Atlanta had large homes with carriage houses with garage apartments. They were part of the original character of that neighborhood. The detached garages of Berkeley Park are just that. They are garages that are appropriate in scale to the lots and to the houses. They do not have living quarters or garage apartments above. I'm missing something here. The proposed ADU, of course, is not consistent. And currently, as I understand this zoning, it's to address a housing shortage. The university neighborhood has a wealth of new housing through construction of apartments, of communities that stretch all the way to Erie Boulevard. Therefore, it seems inappropriate to intrude on the historic character of Berkeley Park with this construction. I know everyone here is very familiar with the Secretary's guidelines, but for the record, the location and orientation of new additions should not detract from or destroy the primary historic character of a property and its setting, and that new construction should fall, ideally, within 10% of the scale of adjacent properties. Our second objection is from a personal point of view. We retired to Syracuse 17 years ago, selected Berkeley Park because of its location, beauty, and that it is a historic landmark district. We felt assured that we were moving into an established neighborhood without the prospect of major changes. When we purchased our home, we never imagined that the space between us and 100 Windsor could be conceived as a building lot. It's a small space for such a large structure, especially for a two-story structure, which is larger than the homes on Terrace Road, which are in close proximity. This proposed structure's footprint is almost matches the footprint of our home. Our kitchen window, our dining room windows, our library, our master bedroom bay window would face this proposed project. This two-story structure will alter our sunlight and our enjoyment of our home. If built, the proposed structure would have a facade of a solid brick, if you'll show it again, solid brick facade facing our home. No windows, no architectural features, just brick. That shows lack of consideration. This proposed structure would be located within a significant slope on the property. It looks like the setting is a park. The edge of this will be close to the edge of the sharp slope. The structure would be placed perpendicular to the natural water movement, and we've seen no studies as to how the water runoff is to be managed, and thus how the construction might negatively affect our property. We feel that approving this project as presented will diminish our property and our enjoyment of our home. More importantly, it would change the character of Berkeley Park. If this project is approved as presently proposed, the 2 stories of the garage with an ADU, how can you deny all the other neighbors who have small garages the right to build modern garages with an ADU? We respectfully request that a minimum, this project is reconsidered in size, in scale, and placement. I'd like to show a picture of this property from what is considered the front facade architecturally, not what we see on Windsor. Thank you for your indulgence.
Against? If I can have your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, good morning. My name's Ron Cashano, 309 Berkeley Drive. If you're familiar with that neighborhood and our particular little niche, we share a common driveway with the Swansons and the Browns and another family, and we're at the end. I'm not familiar with the ADU laws and all that, but I think the intent for our historical district is to prevent a lot of renters moving into the neighborhood, especially, as Susan said, if this is approved at this current scale, who's to stop other homes in the neighborhood that most have detached garages that are doing the same thing, and all of a sudden we're the same as Ostrom and Ackerman with all the students and the renters. So that's our major objective, is a second story, and the fact that there would open it up to a possible renter living above the garage. I don't know the process of this board. My wife and I appeared before you, 15 years plus, to get a new roof approved. We came down with our shingle, and the shingle was denied. And long story short, that same shingle was approved by the same board a couple of years before for a neighbor across the street. My point is, and it's a question, do you or members of the board come to actually look at the site and to incorporate what's on paper with the actual visuals and maybe get a better understanding? If someone had come and looked at our neighborhood and our roof, they would have seen the same shingle across the street. Anyway, I digress, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak against the project as proposed? Step right up, please.
I'm Jim Swanson. I live at 303 Berkeley as well. And I'm just going to read what we've written here. We request that before final approval of the project, as Ron said, we ask that the board visit the proposed site to see firsthand how limited the available space is compared to the proximity of the two existing houses and the proposed size of the new structure. If approval or conditional approval is given the plan as currently proposed, we request that a professional water study be done to ensure that the new structure will not cause water runoff onto our property and that it be shared with us. Subsequently, if runoff should occur, the Browns will be responsible for remedying the issue. We request that the trees, and he mentioned, should remain. Construction should only be done during hours allowed by building codes. That is, no 6 to 7 a.m. starts or 11 p.m. end times. Construction debris should be removed promptly, and the common driveway should be kept open at all times with only brief interludes for contractors, trucks, etc., to enter and depart. Under special circumstances, for extended blockages, prior notice should be given to all three neighbors who use the driveway easement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else here to speak against the project?
I think I might just be reiterating, but Anna Casciano, I'm 309 Berkeley Drive. We moved into our house when our son was 1 year old, and he will be 40. So we've been in our house for 39 years. And in that time, our neighborhood has been fighting against rentals. The Browns, I have nothing against the architecture. You did a wonderful job. Again, the concern is rentals and what this precedent would set for our neighborhood. We have a 2-car garage behind our house. We could stick another story on and rent it And actually Sarah Brown had sent us a copy of it, and we knew they were going to do the garage, but when I saw 2 stories, it was like, what the heck? It was a total shock that there was a second story being proposed. So again, I know the Browns are intending on renting it to either professors, students, PhD students, and so forth. But what if the Browns sell the house? Winfields used to live in the house. They denied quite a few offers for people to come in, for sororities, soccer teams. I'm just very worried about our neighborhood. And as Susan has said, there's a reason that people move to Berkeley Park. It's because of the historic nature. And I hate to see that happen. So again, I hope that the board does come and look, see our concerns, really take into consideration the second story. And again, I do understand why they need another garage. That's not the issue. It's the rental. It's a huge, huge concern. As I said, we've been there 39 years. People have been fighting this for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let the record show there's nobody else here to speak in favor or against the proposed project. Discussion on the board. We hold it.
Close
We're gonna-
the public comment. Right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're officially going to close the public comment period on this project and open it up to the board for deliberation and discussion.
I feel like in light of the feedback that we've heard this morning, I would like to see a little bit more information on the impact that this would have from the other elevation. If you could provide a rendering or something showing kind of how visible that would be, just so that we can assess further those concerns that have been shared. I think that would be very helpful.
Regarding the west elevation?
Yes, the west elevation.
Oh,
What would be the backside of the garage? Right,
Berkeley.
facing Berkeley. Yeah.
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 Okay.
And I think I second Hillary's concerns about the lack of additional fenestration on the south side as well. It seems like it's, I do understand the concerns from the neighbors, but I do feel like that's probably a little bit out of character with the other buildings in the neighborhood.
I just have one. I think it's important probably to see how it relates to the other property. It's hard to see from the pictures, a wider angle of what we just got snippets of pictures of how along the driveway, so it's good to get a wide view of how the property interacts with the other one.
Yeah, visiting the site seems helpful in this case.
Agreed.
Okay, well, just as a comment, a general comment, just as a response to Sue's comment about going to visit the site, we are all requested to do site visits for every project that comes up on the board. I do believe we can't enter the property, but we stay from the street side to look at the property. Is that correct?
with permission of the,
I want to make sure it's.
with permission of the owners, we could, the board has visited, for previous projects, the owners have allowed the board members to come and review the site. As noted, the driveway, the Swansons are opening up their property for the board to be able to look at least from their perspective. So that would be possible, yeah.
Okay. So, I've been to the site previously and other aspects of the project that has been ongoing here for the last few years. So I'm kind of familiar, but my comments on this project here is scale of the new garage unit, and I would like to see some drainage looked at. We do have a we do have a survey, but it doesn't have any topo on it. And I know this is kind of a gully, and the water just races through, and this building's right in the middle of it. So I'd like to see how that is being handled. Well, I feel that'd be pertinent to the. Okay. 'Cause, I mean, everything, as mentioned, everything looks flat, when in fact, we've got a lot of variation in elevation here going through this site. I kind of see this project in two. We have a new build, and then we also have infill on a historic property. My purview, looking at the window infill of the old garage, breaking that down, we have a wood aluminum clad window for infill, and the sill height is how far off the? 18 inches? And okay. And so one issue that was expressed was snow buildup and piling onto those windows. I'm not an architect, so I'm not sure what that feeds into for comment. You know, if it needs to have a different glazing or something on it to protect it from being shattered or.
Not really, is why I provided the landscape in front.
Yeah, okay. And that, you feel that's sufficient?
Yeah, I don't have a concern about that from the sill height
Okay.
perspective.
So,
Well, we opened up this side, so as the garage was pushed off that property line, still room on that side to push. Also, we saw that car park.
right, so the challenge is, can we pull up the site survey plan, please?
The large one.
Yes, please. It should be the first, right here. Right here, so, correct, thank you. So, the comment on trees, I felt the property line buffer should be protected, and we're not encroaching any further onto that driveway and into the existing driveway location, correct?
No, we're actually, so we can see where we're moving a portion of that.
Right, so that buffer is protected, and there's kind of a little bit of a hill there, a berm facing the adjacent property.
All the way this way.
Right, we're dropping to the left.
About right here somewhere,
Right,
so, and I think it
so, you know, the garage is,
just, like you said, I think we get the topos.
yeah, in a bowl, but we do have, as noted there, it's 16 feet off of the property line, and I'm not sure what the spec says for sideline setbacks, so we meet that or exceed that, and that's potential for snow storage. The removal of the structure helps pull the garage closer to the house. I see that as a benefit, keeping it further away from the property line. But I do have an issue with the scale of the building. And the drainage, and those are my comments. I don't know if anybody else has any more comments here on the board. So if I can gather the thoughts, what I'm hearing from the board, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we'd like to see an additional drainage study on the property and potential revisions to the scale of the building and especially to the exterior, the south elevation of the building. Any issues with materials, design, layout?
So that reminds me, the standing seam roof that's on the house right now is, you said that was recently replaced. That's not the original roof, but you're using the same material, so there's not necessarily. There's not the same concern about trying to create a sense of historicity, I guess, for lack of a better word, because we're trying to match a non-original roof. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Falsifying history.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we know what the original roofing material was?
I would have guessed slate or maybe a clay tile. It was copper.
Was it copper?
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Within the time we've lived.
Okay.
Any comment on the, you brought up the point of kind of falsifying history. This is a new structure in historic neighborhood, and we can look at it in two ways. We can kind of create a brand-new architectural language that reflects the historic nature of the neighborhood, but doesn't directly interpret the architecture of the main house. Is any comment on that? I hear that the structure looks good. It looks pleasing, meets architectural code and detailing that doesn't override the main house.
I don't think so. I do agree. I see where you have tried to simplify the language a little bit while respecting the proportions and materiality of the original, so I personally don't have any concerns from that standpoint.
Nicole or Howard or Hillary, anything else?
Say I don't have any concerns about the design other than elevation.
But is there an interest in the board for going and viewing the site? There is? Okay.
Yes.
So,
Is there interest in holding it open?
yeah, so based on discussion here, I feel that we should hold this motion open and schedule an on-site visit to do a walkthrough and get a better understanding of the space and its relationship to the surrounding properties.
Agreed.
Second. Can we take public comment? She has. Okay, let's close this and then,
Close public comment.
yes.
You can vote to reopen it. Someone can make a motion to reopen public comment, and then you can have more public comment to do that.
Is there an interest in more public comment? Oh,
So the,
Young man, what did you say? Oh, what? Do you have something else that you want to say, so we have more public comments?
all right. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, well. Scale.
Can we get a recap of the zoning, like, requirements or approvals?
Yeah, that was a different place.
Right. It's, right, so
As long as it's owner occupied. I don't know about specific, I'm Amber Dillon, I'm a zoning planner with the city. I don't know the specific regulations about it being in a historic district and being rented, but it's in something called the R1 district, which is for single unit dwellings. So as long as the owner stays on the site, they can, as long as they apply with the rental registry of the city, they can rent out that ADU. The ADU has to be at least 4 foot from the side setback. From the current drawings, it looks like it's like about 16 feet. The total lot coverage has to be 30% or less. From my calculations, it's a really big site, so it's about like 22% with the addition of this new garage. And driveway coverage, I did not calculate because that's a separate percentage. Okay.
to the impervious count.
That's 20%. So I'll calculate that when I get back to the office. So I didn't do that one yet, but what else? Oh yeah, this is technically side setback because the definition of front setback is like the most extreme property, like building. What's it called? This.
The primary facade.
Yeah, the primary facade is the most extreme front facing. Yeah. This is the street.
Windsor Place.
Yeah.
So the primary setback is Windsor Place, so everything in front of the house, so if the board can see this line I drew, here's the primary facade. This is Windsor Place. So everything in front of this line is the primary setback. They can't build anything in there. But they can build elsewhere on the site, but nothing can go in here. There's structural coverage restrictions, and there's also drive area restrictions and other, they have patios and stuff, but I don't think you'll see that. There's also non-drive area impervious coverage that have to be calculated for this. All of that will be reviewed in the site plan review. And I think, Jeff, when you're done with the comments, you should let them become part of the packet so that when they do the site plan review, which is a minor site plan review, so it's administratively approved in this case, so that those comments can be considered because impact is part of site plan review.
Thank you.
In terms of use, so rental, the Landmark Preservation Board does not consider use, except as how that use affects the character of the property itself. So whether or not a property is for rent or owner-occupied or for commercial use, that is not part of the Landmark Preservation Board's purview. Yeah. And exactly. Yeah, the issue is to what extent that use impacts the historic fabric.
Thank you for that. And you also clarified that we heard comment that the house is designed to face Berkeley, but legally, as we look at it, the house frontage is Windsor.
I'd have to look at the, normally we calculate the primary as where the primary entrance is. In this case, that driveway, I mean, it doesn't really matter what the address is. So if it's addressed Berkeley, that doesn't mean that that's the primary facade. So in this case, the primary entrance is essentially facing Windsor. And so we would view Windsor Place as the primary. But this is a different kind of lot because it has 3 frontages.
Yes.
So actually, we had this discussion a couple of years ago, I think. Actually, they have 3 primaries. We really, from a planning perspective, we really need to give this a hard look because they have multiple primaries and they might need a variance to locate the structure in a primary setback. Excuse me? Well,
That's what we need to verify.
that's what the planners need to look at. I'm Martha Hertzberg, I'm an Assistant Corporation Counsel. Excuse me. When you have a multiple frontages, then each of them is actually a primary frontage. So when you have a house that's on a corner, there's 2 primary frontages. So in this case, there's 3 primary frontages. So you may need a variance so that makes the garage technically non-conforming, the existing garage, if you're replacing, is there a structure there right now?
It's in the basement.
It's in the basement of the house. Yeah.
Oh, so this is brand new construction?
Correct.
So they may well need a variance to place that where they're trying to place it.
Thank you for that clarification. So we will, as a board, we're going to hold this application open, and Kate, if you can set up a meeting with the owners so we can get the board out on site to take a look at this while that is worked out, to see what
Absolutely.
what else is required on a planning perspective.
This is the neighbor.
Yep,
Okay,
that sounds good.
all right. Thank you for your time. Martha, quick clarification.
I think it's the only place they can have it
She
without
wants to
hearing.
make a comment to the board after the meeting. Is that permissed?
No.
Please clarify.
That's an ex parte communication, so any comments that need to be addressed to the board need to be addressed to the board in the public format. So if you want to reopen public comment, you can do it with the consent of the other board members. You can ask for their consent, or you can do it by motion, but people can't talk to the board while you're in the middle of a case.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a person wishing to speak, so do we, to open back up the public comment, do I have a vote or consent?
Motion open.
Motion to open. A second?
I second.
Greg? Kyle, thank you. Okay, motion passes. We're back to public comment, so if I can have you please come to the microphone.
And one more clarification, I was just working this out with Amber. I think, based on conversations we had a long time ago, that the location of the proposed structure, this doesn't address scale or any impact or anything like that. I think it's possible that where they have it cited is the only frontage or facade of the building that doesn't face a street, and might be the only place they can locate it without a variance. Yeah. Yeah, I think we talked. Yeah. But that'll be a zoning analysis that we maybe should proffer to the board before you make your final decision.
Right, so the zoning looks at it as three primaries. They don't do a primary, secondary, tertiary. It's all primary.
On a corner lot, they're all
On a corner
primaries.
lot, Yeah, okay. I didn't realize that, thank you. Okay,
Thank you for your indulgence.
name and address again for the
My
record.
name
Thank
is
you.
Susan Swanson. I reside at 303 Berkeley, the property adjacent to the project. I would ask, first of all, if you come to the site property, how important it is for you to observe the property from Berkeley Drive, approaching Berkeley Drive, because that's what the public sees. That's the face of Berkeley Park. That is the historic part of this formula. If you are trying to determine the formal front and the back, you can see that their entrance is now what would have been considered the service entrance. There's a main door, and it goes all the way through to the front, the same as my home. I have a formal front door on Berkeley Park, on Berkeley Drive, which we never use because it's the stairway to heaven. Very few people come. Our back door looks like many people's front door, but it is clearly the back of my house. Not as clear at 100 Windsor, but if you look at it, that is the service entrance. And if you look at the architecture on the front, the entrance, the detail, there's where you see this frontage, the facade of the front of a house. And that's the concern as you approach Berkeley, that you see, first you see the tree house, but then you would see this massive structure which is set in front of the house. One story might not be as obtrusive. Two stories will just look like something was dropped in there. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you. Your photo up here is also that you passed around. Is that, that's, okay, I just want to make sure. Okay,
And this includes your comments as well. This is in the back here, yes? Okay, very good.
okay, thank you for your time. We will close the public comment session. And
Okay, yep, so we're
Close
holding it
open.
open, and we'll, thank you.
thank you for your time, Frank. Okay. Okay, so old business is no old business, new business. We have we have review and comment for the Pass Arboretum project,
Yes.
300 South Avery Avenue, Syracuse.
Do you want me to introduce this since this is your project? Yeah.
I just need to make a statement that you're
Yes.
correct. This is my project. I work in the city's forestry unit, and we've been working on this project. And I am here to listen to my team present the project to us today for comment. So,
Okay, yeah, so I'll just follow up on what Jeff was saying. This is a city-owned historic resource, Pass Arboretum. It's a local protected site. It is one of the few designated landscapes that we have in the city, or one of a number. We do have several parks, a couple cemeteries,
only one arboretum.
and only one arboretum. So are you going to go through the history of it in your presentation, or do you want me to give a very brief overview?
You can give a brief overview.
Just really quickly.
We have snippets.
Yeah. And a very brief summary. Land was donated to the city in 1925 by the Pass family. The Pass family, James Pass, very significant business leader here in the at the time, Syracuse, China, as well as Pass and Seymour. The Arboretum was always intended as an educational space, and staff from Parks as well as ESF did the original design, ESF landscape architect, or actually I think it's just the ESF, the forestry, the college, designed the Arboretum. Really is a demonstration place or space for plants that could grow well in this climate. It has, so it was fully built out by about 1935. Unfortunately, it then fell into hard times, and just to wrap this up to now, the Parks Department is interested in sort of improving. They have an improvement plan, not a restoration of the original, but as you will be hearing, retaining some of the features, but introducing more features. However, with the idea that this continue as with its educational purpose. So with that, I will open it up to whomever is speaking from the Parks Department.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm not the local historian in our office, and ours is currently sitting on the other side of the table right now. So my name is Claire Carney. I'm the community forester for the city of Syracuse. So my normal side of this is going to be working with members of the public, whether that's a community organization, residents, or different business entities, and mostly on the side of tree planting and improving the community relationship with trees in our public space. So that being said, I just want to, as a forward, talk to you guys what an arboretum is. An arboretum is just a park that focuses on trees. Similar to how you have a zoo that celebrates animals, we have a park called an arboretum that celebrates the trees of it. And so we do love that they are right across the street from each other. They have that neighboring aspect. And so Tip Hill has a lot of treasures that we're really proud to highlight and improve upon in the future. Is there a way, who controls this? You control this. Okay. So within that, we have a few folks on our team, starting with our city arborist, Steve Harris, myself, Mr. Romano at the table here, as well as Michael Wolf, who is another member of our forestry division, as well as the two folks from our planning department of the City of Syracuse Parks Department, Josh Wilcox and AJ Scarbo. When we started looking at the Arboretum improvement, we had 5 main goals, and those do tie into how they are utilized, how the space is maintained and cared for, recognizing the use and the capacity of our Parks Department, as well as the historic relevancy that the space has held for the last 100 years. Within that being the living laboratory, as mentioned, having been part of that previously with ESF's impression on the park space. we look at how do we utilize that space for people who are visiting that as episodic visitors, folks who might be coming to the park just to, whether it be walk the loop to visit and look at trees, or for any other reason, what's their experience going there, and also as a place that we recognize has a ton of diversity and is also meant for diversity. Wow, how we use that can be towards recommending different street trees or yard trees for our residents, being able to tie that into my role in the city of Syracuse, which is getting more trees planted to increase the canopy and improve the overall well-being of our city through tree planting. And that is able to happen through building that relationship that folks have with trees. When they can look for tree planting, they can go to this location and say, you know what, maybe I want to have a tree that looks a certain way, has a certain color appearance, has a certain aesthetic. Maybe I'm only looking to have certain trees based on what my home looks like. So that gives folks an opportunity to see these trees, to feel comfortable with these trees, and to welcome them into their home for the next 30, 50 years that they live at that property in Syracuse. One of the other things that we were looking at is making sure that this property is ADA accessible. In a moment here, we'll look at some of the historic photos where we do have a path. We are looking at expanding that path so that it is able to be more accessible to a larger audience of visitors, as well as being able to be used more year-round. Right now, I personally am a neighbor to the Arboretum, and I can't walk my dogs there, I can't visit there, I can't go jogging through there because it's not plowed. You can't get anything through there, so all those pathways, I can go through Thorndon Park, I could go through Burnett Park across the way, but I can't touch the Arboretum because it's just not accessible. Also, my dog's less than a foot tall, and she would just go right below the snow line. So really looking at that ADA accessibility, making sure we can keep it open year-round and be a usable space for Syracusans all the time. We also really highlighted the educational opportunities. So in your packet, as well as this presentation, we'll go through a number of different what we call educational classrooms. And so these are outdoor spaces that maybe as a passer-through, you might not recognize them as something that is a design space, but both the educators that we can work with through many partnerships with Baltimore Woods or other local partners and entities, we can provide further opportunities for our classes, for our school systems, or for different adult education opportunities for really engaging folks with their trees, with what they can use their natural environment for, and how to learn and understand more about that. We also highlighting the historic interpretation, so making sure that we are stepping back to the number of plans that have been given to this property over the 100 years that we've been in care of that space. So many different people over the decades have thought, you know, I'm gonna take this beast on and I'm going to do something new, I'm going to revitalize it, and then another 10, 15 years pass before the next person takes it on. So how do we look at each of those impressions that people have made, the thoughts and the decisions they made for that space, and how do we continue to respect and value those opinions of design and create more further interpretations of them? And then our final goal being that we want to become an accredited arboretum. So although we call it an arboretum, there is actual standards. Those, I believe there are 5 standards, so you have to have a group of people who care about that, which is at least a minimum of forestry division. But we do know that we have even the Solvay Tree Board wants to have part in it, the Tip Hill Neighborhood Association. So there are organizations and groups of people who want to engage with it. You have to have a plan for the Arboretum, which is what we have to present to you here today, is a plan for what we are doing going forward, maintenance, management, care for those trees. You have to have at least 25 trees labeled, which we have been requested to label every single tree in that Arboretum, which you'll see in a few moments is quite a few trees. So we are going to be at least reaching that 25 minimum. You also have to have some level of volunteer engagement. So we look at the great opportunity for when we plant the trees, we're going to work with volunteers. When we activate different spaces, they're going to require long-term maintenance and management that goes beyond the capacity of the Parks Department. And how do we need to leverage our partnerships with volunteerism to continue that base of care for our park system? So within that, we hope to achieve all these 5 goals. And Jeff, you want to hop forward? We're able to start with that historic spot, having many previous designs of that. You can see that original design of the pathway where there were those triangles that were turning into sensory shrub gardens. So we are taking this original design and further interpreting it, as you'll see in, I think, 2 slides from here. There was an existing pond in the space. There were some other planter boxes and other components of this that we might not be seeing just yet, but could come down the line as well, or be reinterpreted in a different way that is much more manageable and acceptable for the current climate and ability to maintain this space. You'll also see this is the aerial shot from when I think the property was first transitioned into city inventory. So the original farmland where you had it parceled out. There are some of those lines, kind of delineation in the landscape existing, but there since then have been much more designs and interpretations where the landscape has been altered and changed since that initial 1926 photo. I like the next photo we have. The next photo we have here. You can kind of see the round loop as Jeff is highlighting right in that space there. So the trees started to come in over the 40 years since that initial aerial shot. We can see where we do have some of those concentration of evergreens that are currently existing and where we'll continue to maintain those. But really, we want to make sure that we're looking at that loop as a big component of that ADA accessibility and expanding that to, I believe, 12 feet, a paved surface of 12 feet, although the original was around 25 feet wide. So we're not going quite as wide, but if you've been out there lately, you might only see maybe a 4 to 6 foot path at times at most. So we are changing the width of the path to expand it, make it more accessible, allow for the accessibility of plowing that space, as well as a more solid surface to get through there.
I'm sorry, you said 12 foot?
12.
12 foot, okay.
So is that a driveway or just walkway? Because you mentioned about plowing and stuff.
Well, so I guess in the language use of where I hear the difference being, it is primarily a pathway. We have gates that lock on either entrance of them. That gate being that we may only open them or give the key to like the guy who has the plow, or if there's a reason that like emergency vehicles or police would need to access that space, we're then giving that access so that we can have just better health for our visitors of park. But it's not a driveway that anybody would be driving through. No, I just 2 weeks ago or so did some clearing in there with a truck, and I felt a little uneasy driving through. I was like, I know I have the width here. I know there used to be a road here, but I'm a little unsure in my little Colorado.
Historically, traffic was permitted to drive through this space. That's why it was a 25-foot driveway.
But we're not looking to have vehicle traffic going through there at all. So within this here, this is the full design of what our end goal would be for implementation. We're looking at a variety of different classrooms. It's a lot of complex things, but many of your pages after this will go through much of these spaces. So starting at that top corner there where you have the intersection, we do have a large amount of space that is owned by the city there. It was once seen as a possible roundabout, which was never implemented, but there is a large part of the property there. Keeping with that circular design and where there's already the existing, there's a magnolia in there that's gotten a little bit roughed up by some deer. So we're looking at how do we kind of reactivate and re-envision that space as being a welcoming point. Having that in the future look at being where we could have potential student drop-off for visitors for school trips, being able to have that kind of space between Burnett Zoo and or the Rosamond Gifford Zoo at Burnett Park and the Arboretum. How do we welcome students into that space, creating some enclosure from the roadway and creating a space that is safe from some vehicular traffic as well. In that area, if you guys are familiar with it, it's kind of a dark space right now. That's mostly due to the plants that have been chosen there. So when we look at this, I kind of think of it, I'm a fan of analogies, so I like that this park, as mentioned, it came back into our purview. We thought about it again. It gets thought about every 15, 20 years, and it's similar to maybe your great-aunt's house. That's this beautiful, historic Victorian building that you love. You know it's got good bones. It's worth a lot of money, but you haven't been taking care of it, and it's dusty, and it's got some wood rotting, and those bricks are crumbling. I can't fix all the bricks. The bricks are going to crumble, but I can replace them. So there will be a large number of trees that are just neglected, that have not been maintained, that really need to come out of there, that we are looking at. And I believe that's around 70 trees. We're currently looking at a phasing of that, but when we see this, we see all the good. We see the vision, we see what we want to be able to put in there. We want to make sure that it is a fresh, new space, that we are looking at, how do we highlight the trees that are great, that are mature, that have been maintained well? How do we maintain those existing trees that can be saved? And when we remove the trees that are no longer healthy, making sure that that space is welcoming to those who come in the future, that it is a safe space, that we don't have hazard trees, and that we do welcome folks into this space appropriately. So within that, we have a number of these classrooms. If we want to, do you want me to jump on here, or do you want to, we can go through the individual slides?
We'll just jump on.
Okay.
Just pointing them out.
Okay. So on the left-hand side, where's the mouse right now? Let's start in a counterclockwise circle. From that top entry point, as you come down, you have a large number of existing oaks and maples. So we have a lot of that oak hardwood forest up there. We have a lot of really beautiful mature trees, but we are going to be replacing the arborvitae that kind of create that dark entryway there and create a little bit more of a light open area to folks to come in. We recognize where you have existing shade and sunlight availability, so stepping back to making sure it's a living laboratory that is an opportunity for residents to create more green space in their home, in their yards, creating some shrub triangles in that space there for both shaded and sunlight areas, give some more sensory experiences for people to see these plants and say, hey, maybe I want that in my yard too, and what does that look like, how does that feel, how do the kids like to interact with it, and be able to bring that into your home property as well. Along the pathway there, we come down, there's a really valuable, the rain gardens that were installed as part of the Save the Rain initiative, as well as some existing mature trees that are in an area of edible trees. So we have some black cherry there, we have some fruiting mulberry there. So we wanted to lean into our partnerships with the Syracuse Urban Food Forest Project and how to activate that space with more harvesting, more foraging, and more utilization of our trees and natural spaces. You have below those, between actually the two rain gardens, there is a great extension that we're going to be creating from Tennyson Ave, where we have a great sight line of view, and there is a gate at the end of that there, but we would like to create an alley of trees that are similar to elms, whether they be a hybridization of an elm that is resistant to Dutch elm disease or a hackberry that has a similar vase-shaped form. When those trees grow and mature, you will be able to look down Tennyson and see it as though it was 1972 and you are lined with elm trees. So we are trying to create some of that historical relevance, but it's also a nice space to hang out. If you're going through the park in a class space, you can hang out in the trees, take a little bit of respite from the sunlight, and have a place to be able to learn some more about maybe pests and pathogens of the urban forest. Down in that southern corner you see there's going to be, there's previously a pond space there. Although we don't want to reintroduce the pond and the maintenance that goes along with that, we are looking at it as creating a grass space where there are different grasses and sedges that, if allowed to grow and maintain in that circular pattern, we can have the create the experience of a pond as the wind blows through the grass. It has the moving flow of the water, and we could plant riparian trees in that because it is or riparian plants in that space because it is a low, wet space there. You also want to be able to do some maintenance and use those grasses as flood mitigation in that area too. On the side there, going through these a little bit fast, I apologize. We've got our crabapple alley. So you did see previously there were some boxes for different, I don't know if it was a vegetable garden, I can't recall, or herb garden. I think it might have been.
Shrub display.
Oh, shrub garden, my apologies.
Shrub display.
There were those hedges down there. We are kind of similarly taking that like form, but transitioning it back to how do we use the space for the public. I plant a lot of crab apples. I plant a lot of crab apples in our city. They are a great hardy tree. We have really wonderful, I want to plant a crab apple, but you can go to the Arboretum and you can pick what color you want. If your house is green and you think a purple tree would look cool in front of it, you got it. We're going to find that. Go pick which of those 3 purple trees do you want. Do you want the pink flowers? Do you want the white flowers? Do you want the little red fruit? Do you want the big red fruit? You can go out there, you can check it out, you can sign up for the next 30 years of your tree experience right now and see what that is. So although crab apples are not always the most appealing thing, there's a really high value to them. They are absolutely vital to our urban forest in Syracuse, and they are beautiful when we do maintain them, and we are maintaining them. We're getting grant money to maintain our trees. So as we continue to move forward, those will be maintained beautifully and keeping them in a great specimens for folks to be able to visit. The area that Jeff is alluding to right now, we actually just went out and pruned we cleaned up a little bit and pruned 2 or 3 weeks ago when the snow wasn't yet on the ground. So looking at, these are a species called Tilia. There's a Tilia americana and a Tilia cordata there. And so what these trees have is they, through a little bit of neglect actually, created some branchings that are really droopy, and so you have an area underneath them to kind of run through. We're trying to emphasize some more recreation in the natural environment, so utilizing play spaces that are through trees, having little, they're kind of almost like little forts. You can run between them. And so there's 3 existing right now. We want to eventually, in the next few years, plant 2 more so that they create a whole little system. And you have this little underground jungle gym below the canopy of trees. And it was a lot of fun even for us to maintain it, and I might have found a little boxcar along the way, so we're not the first to play under those trees. Somebody else is playing under there. We're just making it a little cleaner and a little safer for them. Up on the hillside here, there is a proposed path to go up to the, there was historically a path up there. It will follow, I believe, ADA accessibility, but is not to the same level that the main path will be. But it will lead you up to the viewpoint. That was historically an area that was desired to visit. I believe there might have even been a bench up there at some point or some area to hang out at. what we're looking at is how do we kind of reactivate that upper hill space. There are some existing trees that are native and that would have been indigenous to our populations here in the central New York area. So we looked at how do we activate that in the future, working with partnerships with the Haudenosaunee and their valuation of trees, specifically the white pine up in that area. We also have for some different selection of people who might want to have different trees in their yards. We have some Japanese maples, some birches, and then on the side over next to the cemetery, we're looking at an area called Heritage Hill. So we look at Syracuse. Syracuse is a sanctuary city. It has a very diverse population of people who live here, and as we're trying to make this space something that reflects all of Syracuse, we look at how do we create a space where anybody who lives in Syracuse can feel at home, and we can plant trees and we can select trees that come from all the different backgrounds that we have residents of in our city, and be able to plant trees for them and recognize that no matter where you are in our city, you can come somewhere and be able to find a tree that you might have cultural or significance to in some way and be able to provide that for folks. So we're looking at just how do we make everything a reflection of Syracuse as a whole and make it really valuable to everybody. What our timeline is, currently we've gone through the analysis of inventorying every single tree, assessing every tree. That was our forestry technician, Mike Wolf. He was able to go through, he looked at every tree, spent a lot of time, a lot of hours up there and staring at screens and mapping every tree out. He knows where I think all trees are in that park there and every one that's coming down. So within that space there, we've gone through that. We've been able to do design concept ideas. We're working with different, putting it out to different public boards and making sure we get as much feedback as possible. We're already starting to create some shifts and changes as a result of that feedback initially. But right now we're going through that public process, making sure that we tell everybody, hey, we want to do this. We want to change our landscape, and you guys like it or not? Is it okay? Because it is for you guys. We're just the ones who know what trees need to be taken care of or pruned or removed or planted. Coming this spring, we are going to be looking at the removal of trees. Initially, we do have set right now that we would be looking at the removal of 70 trees. We have started to look at a phased response to that, so that is a lot of trees coming down. Is a big number, but we do look at there being a couple hundred trees in that park existing and the extra 150 that would be planted over the next few years. So what would that removal look like? We have created another plan that we can share. Oh, you do have it, okay. So kind of looking, here's our removals overall. What we're removing is stuff that is going to be beyond the point of unhealthy, where we have these silver maples and black locusts that are at that end of their lifespan, or they're starting to get brittle, and they're also undesirable. They are what Norway maples we do consider invasive in our in the United States. We're also looking at black cherry, which is going to be that one over on the side there is on its decline. It's at the end of its lifespan. We have a ton of overgrown juniper that is NU that is starting to just really decline. And as we look at this being an arboretum, it's a museum. You don't want to go to the museum and have your paintings half ripped apart. You want to have your paintings intact. Your frames are intact. You're not looking subpar. You want to have the high quality stuff there. So we do recognize that there are some trees that might be desirable that were historically there, but 100 years is a long time, and trees can have a lifespan. And so we do recognize we do need to remove some of these along the way. Now, here's a few examples of those unfortunately declining trees. You can see a lot of bark damage, no branches coming off of them, and just really, I think, stuff that any folk walking through the park would recognize as something we need to take down. We also, in part, are working to make sure we are accommodating for the proposed officers' memorial. That's not going to be there anymore? Oh, okay. We're moving forward. Strike that. Here's just a couple of those that are in your packets there for those small little places that we walked through. The edible gardens, here we have the Tennyson Ave extension. You can see that alley that we're trying to emulate in that space there. There is the pond area, so looking at how to utilize what formerly was there and reinterpreting it to our modern needs and maintenance ability. Our lovely crabapple, although that image is a monoculture of crab apples, ours is going to be a way fun looking rainbow of color. Oh, I forgot about that. We also, there currently is, I believe, 3 large tulip trees along that edge there. It was formerly another species running along that line there. I want to say elm, But in this interpretation, we have the existing tulip trees. We're going to continue that line there. They're a large, stately, upright tree, have beautiful yellow-orange fall color, and they do produce a flower, pretty large tulip structure-like flower that comes in about July. So it's when other things aren't flowering. It's a fun thing to have some difference in your urban canopy. Oh, we talked about the Tilia Tunnel. Those are not the ones we have, but they are. Ours are not that cool. That was a dream, but that is similar to what we have there. Maybe someday. This is just more images of up on the hill. We do have some existing plants, those being a lot of your pine species, but we do have other plants we can bring into it. We can work with ESF on, they've been offering us some of the American chestnut, so we can bring in some of that into that space. We might also look into introducing some pawpaw to that space as well because of its relevancy in our community. We have the Japanese maple and birch room that we talked about a little bit and alluded to, having a lot more colors and just really some different textures that folks might want to bring into their yard spaces. Oh, and then as part of the, I mentioned that we would be supplying, or we would be doing, why am I blanking on the word for it? Like name tags. What
ID tags?
Yeah, I don't know what the word.
Labels?
Labels. Yes, labels. I think labels is the word. I'm so sorry. That was a hard word to get. So we're going to be, in addition to labeling all of our trees, we're going to be providing mulching. So it gives it that clear, crisp appearance. It's not just going to be grass coming up to the trees. There is going to be a bit of a difference on how that application will be applied for small trees, new trees, young trees, large trees, whether they have a larger canopy that comes down to the ground or a large mature tree that has a very tall, wide-spreading canopy. So there is some formula that we will be following and looking at that when we do the implementation of the plantings. This is why we also mentioned our parks planners. They get to go through some of the decisions on what our aesthetic appearance is. There are some design standards that we are following the fencing to match the existing, don't know the tire material, that's not my expertise, that's why we have planners. But the fence line along the other sides, we're going to be replacing the back fence line that is currently chain link. I believe we're going to do a black chain link fence. And then there is additional fencing that we'll be providing to make sure everything is consistent around the entire park area. There is some need for tree protection guards. As I mentioned, that magnolia in the entry space is getting a little bit rubbed up by some buck rub. We are seeing a lot of that in that area there, so we recognize we need to protect some of those young trees. We will be providing tree protection guards to those at the time, and continuing to keep the aesthetic of the benches and other materials in the park consistent as well. So, moving forward, we are looking for public input. We did provide a little QR code if you guys have that, or for anybody visiting online who follows back to this presentation and wants to add some additional comment as well. So we're looking for, what are we missing? Are there any things that people want to see, any uses that they might need to add? Do they have any major likes or dislikes? Any opinions on sides of it? Do you have any trees or shrubs that you'd like to see, or you think are wildly offensive to the space, or just do you have any old photos of the space that we'd like to share? We have a few of them in our handbook so far. We've got a few of them that we've shown, but we're always looking for just personal photos that folks might have from that space, just to, we can look in and see, like, is that tree still there, or just kind of interpreting it along the way. It's also fun for us to look through and really feel for this space a lot too. So far, we've got a little bit of our feedback listed here that you can take a look at. There are definitely differing opinions of the users in that space there, but we're trying to take into account everybody and what the park's intended use is as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Do you have any leading questions for me?
You did a great job.
Yes, you did a great job.
I heard Jeff do this presentation at my West Side meeting.
Just so the board's role is to make comment. So, comment.
Comment away.
Are there evergreens in there? Evergreens?
Oh, absolutely. There are evergreens, and there's also one of the fun things that I'm really excited about. You have 3 different types of deciduous conifers, which is really rare because that's a specific functional type. So they have needles and they have cone bearings, and they lose those needles every year. So it's really cool to have that. But we have all 3 of those up in that park space over on the northeast corner there. So from that side of it, great, right, we look at this and it's a great educational opportunity because you can compare that. You can bring students from ESF, SU, even I know there's some outdoor education classes down at Cortland that could even take a trip up here to be like, hey, look at that. You don't always get that in a park. So, and they're fully mature too, so I don't have to plant them, they're already existing. But there are a large number of evergreens in there. If you saw the aerial photo from, was it 1966? Yep, most of those are all still back in there.
On the plan, Howard, these the darker circles, these are all coniferous trees versus deciduous.
I love I enjoyed reading through the nomination paperwork and everything. It sounds like the history of this has been a little bit nebulous in terms of what the original intent versus what got implemented at various different times. So, but I very much appreciate that you are absolutely maintaining the original intent of the site as an educational and tree zoo. I like the analogy. And just sort of keeping with the overall configuration of the main path. So I appreciate all those things. I also really like the moves you're making to try and extend the street grid into the space. And I think that's an incredibly thoughtful way, as you said, to try and start to help residents envision this is sort of a shopping cart for their home landscapes and everything. I think that's a lovely idea. And thank you for the clarification. Did I see it's going to be asphalt paving or for the loop? I read it's not very clear what originally was, and some parts are. I've been through there. It's been a while. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to tell right now.
Stone
Is it stone?
It was originally concrete, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like a small dust, yeah.
Yeah,
Stone.
originally it was a concrete roadway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's deteriorated.
Right.
It was 25 feet wide. And over time, we have actually trees that are actually on that old roadbed plane.
Okay.
And so instead of trying to create a larger roadway, we're doing a walkway of asphalt.
Okay, so it is asphalt.
Yeah,
Okay.
10 to 12 feet wide that would accommodate walkers, but also a maintenance vehicle.
Kind of honoring the configuration, but repurposing.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
maintaining that historic oval.
And so, as far as the accessible part up to the Heritage Hill, when we say accessible, is it actually compliant? I know that there's limitations with the existing topography, but just from my better understanding, is that truly accessible or just providing a paved walkway for people to get up there?
Can I answer that?
If you can answer that.
So, looking at the vertical difference between the overlook and the main loop, it's like 27 feet or 33 feet.
Okay.
But we have like an 800-foot run.
Okay.
And so I feel with a little bit of grading, we can hit 4.9% continuously.
Okay.
There'd be a little bit of areas where we got to do a little more excavation
All right.
and maybe a little fill, just even it out. But I feel 99% confident we can hit that to bring people up. And that's going to be a long-term goal. You know, the primary is to do the loop, and then in a few years, we could get that access up, utilizing the historic pathway.
Okay.
That is the intent, to utilize the historic pathway that brought people up originally.
And would that be asphalt as well?
Yes,
Or, okay.
that would be a 5-foot wide asphalt walk.
So, my next question would be, and I'm glad you brought this image up again, is there any consideration giving to tying that back to the Tompkins entrance, as it looks like maybe there was originally one, or is that intended to just be a spur overlook and then people come back down? Or?
So the challenge to come down from the overlook easterly, there was originally a set of stairs that brought you up to that space, and it's the slope severity is too great to be able to do that.
To reintroduce a stair, or?
Well, to reintroduce a compliant walkway.
Okay. I mean,
So-
you still have the compliant walkway that you're introducing. I just was.
Oh, so to extend the original network of paths.
Yeah, or at least kind of complete a loop.
We did not look at that, but that
I'm
is
going to comment a little bit on that.
That's something in the future.
Steve Harris, City Arborist, Syracuse Parks Department. The proposed ADA pathway that Jeff and Claire are talking about is not a funded capital project yet.
Okay.
In fact, in terms of the removals, and future improvements to the site. Because of our history of lack of management at this site over the many decades, we've had an internal discussion. One of my concerns, having been here 14 years and been, as someone who's been part of that lack of management, we want to remove as we're prepared to plant, to prove to ourselves that we are capable of these improvements. So we're strategizing where we're going to make those improvements. That's partly in response to feedback that we've gotten. And then but we do want to bring back those pathways in a formal way.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Looks awesome. Looks like a great investment. I'm very excited to see it develop over the years.
Nicole?
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was wondering, do you have any lighting planned along the pathways or entrances?
I believe right now we have a proposed 4 lights through the circle, but it's still dependent on working through getting electricity to run through it, because right now there is no electricity going through the park. But that is absolutely a consideration we're looking at right now.
Nicole, we looked at maybe on the corners, just a little bit of a downlight, not to highlight the space, but just to break the darkness with just a low ambient light, and the fixtures would match the site furnishings, would be black metal in form. But I haven't seen anything historically if we ever had such structure in the park.
Yeah.
I've reached out to Bob to get some additional information. Howard, anything?
Beautiful thing. I ride by it all the time, so I kind of know. And I saw that they were repairing the fence, I think, last year, redoing on the Salisbury side. That's what it looked like. It was pretty falling apart. It looked like someone was doing some work to it. You know, anything you can enhance the parks. I grew up here and I'm in parks all the time. It's always a good thing. So good to have a project. Continue to look at all the other parks as well. So I think it's a good thing.
That was actually one of the things I was going to say, is that I'm hoping that some of the things that you learn and the standards that you come up with in terms of sort of putting signage on the trees. What are we looking for? What's the word we're looking for?
I like signage. I think signage is the right word.
Yeah,
like,
signage,
not
okay. That may carry over into some of the other parks. Is ESF involved at all with what you're doing at this point, or?
In 2019 and 20, the mayor and I reached out to ESF to talk about how to re-engage them in this site, since that was part of the stipulation of the deed. And they were in transition with presidents at the time, and we went to the top and we engaged, and there was not interest or capacity. I will say there's been some studios dedicated to some design ideas. But I don't think that one of the challenges with ESF is they're not a land manager, and that was part of our request, and we're not going to get that out of them. And certainly we haven't received any investment from them, but they're aware of what we're doing, and we are going to present the concepts, particularly to the Faculty of Landscape Architecture, but that's the extent of our involvement with them.
Yeah, no, I'd have thought that they would be interested in the educational component of this too. So hopefully they'll find that they can play a role.
Yeah.
And
I think
with you all.
Presenting the designs for comment to various faculty will
help
elicit. Play a role in making them aware that it's there. I don't know if we've done that yet. Looking at Jeff Romano to see if we've done that yet.
That's coming.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Next
Not
month,
yet.
February.
Yeah. And the only other thing, just quickly to say, is that I love the idea of playing underneath the trees. And I know in Thornton Park, the kids play under the beach, the Weeping Beach. They create beautiful rooms. So anyway, sorry.
Hi, and real quick, my name is Michael Wolf. I also work with the Forestry Department. I just wanted to get some handouts to you guys showing how we're going to be phasing the removals. Of 321 trees, we have roughly 71 removals. Based on public feedback, there was an interest to retain some of the historical plant material, and so in an effort to do that, we're going to try and phase these removals over a 4-year period, starting with and prioritizing trees that are in the worst condition and are hazardous to park users. So I just wanted to get that out to you guys so that there was an opportunity for you to review it and ask questions and make comment as needed. I'll give you a minute to do so.
These would be transplant or just taken away?
These will be cut and removed, and then stumps will be ground and then replanted, like Steve was saying, in broken down sections so that we can make sure that we are capable of handling such a task.
It looks like a great project, Jeff.
It sounds like a great project, and it seems that the board is generally in support of this project moving forward. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Forestry, for a great presentation.
Thank you.
You got it. Thank you. Okay. Any additional discussion or correspondence? No? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn?
Second?
I'll second.
Second? No.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Meeting adjourned. Good job, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I try.